Hello and welcome to my channel. I've been getting many requests on creating a video tutorial on SAP APIs. So today here I am with another tutorial where we will try to understand about SAP API Hub. We will try to use uh, one of the SAP API to create the material document. Before we start, I would request uh, those people who have not watched my earlier videos, please do watch, and also please do subscribe to my channel. It's Munir Solkar. So with that, let's begin. Let us first understand what SAP API Hub is. Okay, so SAP API is a web application that SAP has provided that will that is useful for all us, the developers, to search for the APIs that are being built by SAP. It also allows you to test from that web application itself. Of course, you can still use the Postman application to test it. Okay, but SAP also allows if you are connected to SAP BTP. Now, SAP Business Hub is a central catalog like that. It will include all the APIs for S4, for cloud, for microservices, everything. Okay, the URL for SAP is https api.sap.com. Okay, it in the initial screen you can actually give the API that you want to explore, and then it will give you the list where you can come and see. In our case, we will be actually um utilizing the material document API uh, that allows to read and create. So when you come to this page, generally it will give you a try out here, and also it gives you the API references and stuff like that. You can go and visit and see what uh, each and every API does there. So moving on, now let us first understand what API we are trying to build in this particular. I'll not be building, basically I have already built it. Since the code is too much, I will just walk through the code, but I'll make sure that you understand the code properly. Uh, So we will be actually consuming the API material documents SRV, this API from SAP. Now, when you search and go in the overview page, the one which you have seen in the earlier slide, if you go to the API reference, it will give you all the methods that is being used in this particular API. For the post method, when you go there, it will give you the parameters, the bodies and stuff like that, right? This the post request can easily be tried out using the Postman. Similar similar kind of application been created where you actually go and uh, do the testing there. Uh, like this screen is similar to our Postman, but here also you can go give the request in and give the body also here with the JSON body there, and then try it out. Okay, now moving on, the same thing as I've told you can be also used using the Postman. This is majorly used when you have uh, uh, your system as not on cloud, but uh, it's a system that will be connecting the on-prem system. Okay, wherein you will be having your own host and port name. Okay, that you can find it out in SMICM transaction. Again, SMICM transaction, that will give you the host name for HTTP and HTTPS. So depending on what protocol is being followed in your network, uh, since in this case I was actually following HTTPS protocol, I have actually taken the host and port name of HTTPS. Now, what does this API do is the Postman do is it will allow us to provide the parameter, like the parameter that you can see here. The SAP client is 110, not the 100. So I'm not developing and testing in the same client, but my testing client is different. So that will go and sit here in parameters. Similarly, you can give some basic authentication, some headers if you want to, and then the body will have the payload. As can be seen, the payload is a JSON payload, and then we can just send it and get the things. But before we actually do it, we should uh, always generate a CSRF token. I will show you in the hands-on how you can do that, and then use this post request. Okay. Now, uh, after that, once you have tested everything in your Postman, your payload is working fine, everything, that then it can be given to the developer to develop it. uh, Sometimes we as a developer go and check the API if something is missing, some property is missing or not. All those analysis we can do, and we can ask the functional to actually put it in the FSD document so that the development can start. Now the process to consume the API in our ABAP report would be using the interface IF HTTP client. There are other ways as well, but I'll be showing this IF HTTP client um, using the class CL HTTP client uh, that will initiate the interface, and we can actually use the interface methods to actually do our get and post requests. Okay. What we have to do is we have to create a global object or an object that we need, uh, which is of type IF HTTP client, and using the method create by URL we just create an object. And now this object will be having different methods. Few methods that we need to use I have just mentioned here. The authenticate method will be used to perform the basic authentication, like user ID and password you can provide. Okay. The next step is to actually pass the payload, and the payload we have to pass in the request parameter. It will have two parameter, request and response. Okay. uh, as an object type, where we have to just pass whatever is required as a request, and we will get the response back in the response object. Now to set the calling method using a get and a post, whether get or post, we have to do it in the request object. Payload we have to pass in the request object, then call the method send to send the request. Once the request is sent, we can use the receive method to get the response back. Now the receive method will have either a successful uh, status, which is 200 and above, till less than 300, and it also has the reason for it. Okay, if in case if it is failing, in case of uh, success or failure, it might also return the XML back with the successful information or the error information, that we can actually parse the XML and get the data that we need, and accordingly we can pass it back to our calling program. Okay. With that, let's get into the system and see what we can do. So to start with, the API hub, okay, that we have. So mine is a material document. Okay. And I have actually searched the API. Sorry, I have searched the API material document. Okay, API material document SRV. Okay, so that will give me this overall, where I can go and see the overview. Okay, this was the page that I have was been showing you. It will display what it does. So it will allow to create a material document. It also allows you to retrieve, means you to get or to post the material document. API reference key will always give you the corresponding parameters what you can actually pass. So in get you can pass stop escape, right, at the top, the dollar top dollar escape to get the data. Okay, similarly for a post, you you can actually go and see what is the document that we need to pass as a body. It will have all the uh, document that is created. You can actually take click on this example value and it will give you a proper JSON format for you, and you know that okay, this is your JSON payload that you have to pass according to whatever is mandatory or not. You know, those things you'll have to check in the API reference document, and then decide what you need to pass so that it works properly. Now this section will tell you that the request body is of type application.json, so you can only pass a JSON as a payload here. Okay, now once that is done, you will get the response back with 200 plus. Like if it is 201, the entry is successfully created. So you can check on this code as well. If in case of error, we already know that 400 plus will be the error, and it will actually return you the error message like this. Okay, this is what it says. So depending on this whole thing, I have tested it in the, as you can see. So this is what our Postman look like, and here we see the parameters. Okay, you can pass the client also here, and say that okay, SAP client is 110 that you can get here. Authorization will allow you to give the basic authorization where you can give the user ID and password. Header will actually allow you to either fetch the CSRF token and pass the CSRF token here. This is mandatory in case you are actually using the Postman plugin. Okay, body will actually give the body. So after proper analysis, whatever is needed, we have just to pass. We have to pass the payload here, and then accordingly execute it. Okay. Uh, in order to get the CSRF token in Postman, you have to first execute the get method with with the header value of x dash CSRF dash token with the value of fetch. So when you actually try and execute this, it says that it is successful and it will return in your header a x CSRF token here. This is the token there. So this token you have to copy, and then now in the XCSRF token, the value will not be fetch here, but the value will be the value that we have actually got. Now using this thing, now you can actually go and do a post request by providing the proper um, payload. Okay, once you send it, it will either succeed or it will fail. Now in my case, it is successful. It says that okay, uh, the status sent back is 201. Okay, and it will also give me the response back with what is the material document that has been created in the system. In this case, you see the document number 409 is created, and it will give you all the properties as a parameter. We can read this XML back and actually do whatever we need to do with that information. With that, let's get into the system now and see how we can actually do the development. Okay, so let me make this a bigger so that we understand how it is. So this is one include that I have actually used to create. So in my case, the uh, call will be done based on a button click, where if they want to actually perform a material document creation, okay, for the GR entry, it will call a material document API. Now in this material document API, first thing is we will perform a get CSRF token. Now the get CSRF token, as can be seen, is actually getting, I'll get my uh, user ID and password, my host and port name that I am maintaining, and then actually I will create a URL, okay, for the a URL for that I need to actually pass. The important thing is that you first create a HTTP client object by calling the create by URL. Since I am using the URL directly, I am using the create by URL method to get the client object. If I am not able to get it, then I am just passing an error. Then you just authenticate the uh, value, authenticate the request, set the method as a get method here. Okay, as you can see, we are just passing the get method in the application, and this is again a constant that we can use from the interface itself. It has get and post method. Similarly, we pass the content type as application JSON here, as we had seen in the API hub as well. Okay, once that is been set, uh, the same thing I'm saying, okay, set the header field as CSRF token, and the value that I am passing is fetch. It is exactly similar to what I am doing in uh, Postman. Once that is done, we should go and just do the send request. If the send is not successful, we just display a message, but if it is successful, then we receive the response back, and then if the response we are getting back, we can get the uh, response back, and it will have a header field, again the CSRF token, that will be actually stored in this particular uh, variable that I am creating. Okay, I am also saving the session, not needed though, but yeah. So it will give me back the token that we have read. If the token is received successfully, then my actual processing will happen, and that will happen from here. So I'm checking whether the token is not initial. If the token is initial, I already have my object created. Now in the request, I am setting this time not the get but the post request, passing the CSRF token with the token that I have received in the header, creating my JSON request, the same that we have seen uh, in our Postman. Finally, set that JSON request to as a payload using the set C data, send the request back, get the response. If there is an error, you just pass the value back. In if you are not able to get the uh, response back, if the response back, we will get the status and the reason using these two fields, and those are these two fields. Okay, status code and status reason. Okay, this will give me the status reason. In this case, I'm just checking whether the status is greater than and less than 2000. I could have easily gone and done only equal to 2001, then it is a success, otherwise it is an error. In case of success and error, in any case it will give me back the response, and the response it will be always in XML. So I'm using the XML parse method to parse the XML, get the data back. If in case of successful, it will definitely return me the material document number which I am reading. In case the successful is done, I am passing back the message as material document so and so created. In case of error, I am just reading the error, the which is actually being passed in the message parameter of this XML, and then I am just passing it back. Finally, once the whole process is completed, just close back the connection. This is how you can go and use any API that you want to utilize in your application. With that, I will stop here. If you have any questions, comments, please do post it. I will try to read and try to reply as much as possible. Again, a humble request that it takes so much of time and energy to create these videos for you guys, and I hope that these are uh, helpful for you guys. If they are really helping you, please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. With that, thank you and happy learning.